When a person is trying to get a job, more often than not, the company they are interested in often tests them in order to find out various things about the person or the candidate. You see, there are several questions which have been developed by psychologists and HR professionals, which are ways to understand the personality of certain prospective candidates. In this video, we're going to be looking at some uncommon interview questions. They are generic questions which have been developed and tested by industry experts as a means to understand a potential candidate for a company. Although these questions are common resources, they however they however present a difficulty to many candidates during an interview for a new job. Here are 71 common and uncommon interview questions for candidates to prepare for. Question 1. Tell me about yourself. This seems to be a very cliche kind of question, but it still remains a relevant question for your interviewer to know the kind of person you are. Question 2 is what are your strengths? People have various strengths, and this is a way to understand it from the mouth of the candidate what their strengths are. Question 3 is what are your weaknesses? There are people who don't actually understand the kind of weaknesses they have, which is sort of like a red flag because it means you don't totally understand your kind of personality. Everyone has a weakness in one area or the other. You may be working on it, but definitely you have some which you need to know, and you should be able to explain it to someone who wants to know more about you. Question 4. Why are you interested in working for this particular company? Question 5. Where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? You see, this question 4, why are you interested in working for us? Sometimes the recruiters want to know your interest in the company. If you have the passion and the desire to want to work in that company, those are some of the reasons they want to understand from question 4. Question 5, where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years? Sometimes recruiters want to understand whether you are willing to grow with the company or to have an idea of how you see yourself in the near term or in the future, to know also whether you have envisioned your future, because having a vision of the future means you have set goals of how you want it to be. Question 6. Why do you want to leave your company? Why do you want to leave your current company? Sometimes people may want to leave their company for negative reasons. And most times, if there are negative reasons, it's going to replicate if they enter a new company. So this recruiting firm is trying to understand if there is a red flag somewhere, or they want to know if this candidate has the right perspective for leaving a company, because we have to face the reality. Almost everyone leaves one company and moves to another. Question 7. Why was there a gap in your employment between one date and another date? Sometimes gaps in a person's CV or in a person's career is a red flag, meaning that the person is not stable in different environments that they might work in. So those are ways in which a company can understand the kind of candidates. But sometimes it's possible that a person has been working in contract work, and in those contract kind of activity, it's only short space periods of time you have jobs, and other periods of time you are out of work. So there may be justifications for having gaps in your CV. It's just that a candidate needs to explain it in a positive way rather than looking at it in a negative, justifiable reasons which recruiters will accept for being out of work or having gaps in your CV. Question 8. What can you offer us that someone else cannot? Over time, a candidate would have understood himself and known how you operate in a firm or in a company. And over time, you understand your unique abilities compared to other people. Although it's not advisable to compare yourself with other people at your level, but it's good to know some certain skills that only you can offer over the years, or only you has been known to offer over the years. So that's a uniqueness because people are different. We learn differently, we study differently, and we apply our knowledge in different ways. So it's possible that not everyone applies the same skill in the same way. So one has to know their own unique abilities. Question 9. What are three things your former manager would like you to improve on? Our managers, having worked for a person for a long time and having worked with other people as well, a manager is able to understand the nature and the pattern of work that a certain employee delivers on a daily basis. So they know, at least to a certain extent, they know your kind of personality. And based on tasks you have been given and how you delivered on them, they are able to know some of your weaknesses or areas that you require improvement. And they might have told you from time to time. So this question wants you to present some of the things that your former employer has spoken to you to improve on. At least it shows clearly that you had an employer who cared for you, and also it also helps them to understand some areas of weaknesses that you have on the job. Question 10. You need to relocate. These days, some people will be married and they have their family in a particular location, or they generally don't want to relocate. They want to work in a certain city. This question is used to gauge a person's desire to relocate or stay in a particular city or a country. So it's good to ask this question because sometimes some people may start a job and they are immediately relocated to a different location which they do not desire to be in. Question 11. Are you willing to travel? People have different preferences when it comes to traveling, and some people like to travel while others are not really comfortable traveling a lot when it has to do with the job. But there are some jobs that are primarily related to traveling. I need to understand the mindset for that employee before actually recruiting them into the company. Question 12. Tell me about an accomplishment you are most proud of. At certain points in one's career, you need to understand that you need to have accomplishments over the years. An accomplishment also shows that you are dedicated to the kind of work you do and you are someone who is ambitious. For someone not to be able to describe their accomplishments over time can be a red flag. It means that you are not really pushing yourself to achieve great things. Question 13. Tell me about a time you made a mistake. We all make mistakes, but we should also be willing sometimes to express ourselves because we have learned from our mistakes. So we shouldn't shy away from answering questions about mistakes we've made because once you have made a mistake and you learn from it, you should no longer hold the guilt of that mistake. What is your dream job? Everyone moves from organization to organization searching for something at the heart of their desire. So some people already have a dream job in mind, but others may not actually have what it is they desire in a job. This could help them to actually frame in context the kind of job they work in if they are able to answer this question by preparing themselves to answer this kind of question. So you have an idea of the kind of job or environment you want to work in. So that once you see it, you know that this is a place for you to stay for the long term. Question 15. How did you hear about this position? So there are different ways for one to hear. It might be based on an advert online, it can be job boards, it can be based on reference. So the company just wants to know how you heard about the recruitment position. Question 16. What will you look what would you look to accomplish in the first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days on the job? There are certain jobs that in the first 30 days, there are certain things you need to be doing in order to start on a good note. There are different jobs that if you check online, you'll be able to find resources that tell you what you need to do on the first 30 days of getting that job. Because some jobs need you to hit the ground running, while others need you to just study the environment prior to actually starting the job. The other jobs need you to actually get acquainted with the different employees, staff, and team members so that you'll be able to communicate better with them over the lifespan of that job. So there are different kinds of jobs that require different behaviors in the first 30 days. So it's good for one to find out what it is for that particular job they are applying for. Question 17. Tell me how you handle the difficult situation. So we all handle different kind of situation and the kind of jobs we do. And sometimes if one doesn't have what to say when he has to do with a difficult situation, it might mean that they have not really been challenged in their career. So with this question, the recruiters are able to judge whether someone has been really tasked or has handled complex situations on the various jobs they have been doing. You need to challenge yourself with the kind of job you do, not doing something that you are above. You need to do activities that makes you to grow. So this is a way to gauge the kind of experience a person has had over the years. Question 18. Why should we hire you? In this case, a candidate needs to express or justify to the recruiters why they remain the best candidate for the position. They need to describe things bordering around their experience, their adaptability, their willingness to learn, and how closely they fit the requirements of the job description. There are many other things that a candidate needs to express in order to show that they are the right candidate out of all the others that are being recruited for the position. Question 19. Why are you looking for a new job? This question is being asked sometimes in order to gauge the mindset of the attitude of the person. Because if you are looking for a job and you get a new job, it's possible that you continue to search for another job once you get that next job. But they want to gauge to understand why you're looking for a new job so that it's something that they as a company will be able to satisfy for you to work for them and be rather than working for them and continue to be in the job search. So they want to know if they can meet that your desire. Question 20. Would you work holidays or weekends? More often than not, most companies will always put in their contract that you're going to work Monday to Friday. But once you start the job, sometimes they have their unwritten policy where they want you to work over the weekends or during holidays. But there are also jobs that are essential duty jobs that requires people to be on duty during weekends or holidays. But of course, within these companies, there are also arrangements for shifts so that you can have days off if you work during holidays or weekends. There's always an arrangement on that. But they want to understand your mindset, whether you're fixed, you're dogmatic about you're not working on weekends or holidays. So they want to understand your kind of mindset. Question 21. How would you deal with an angry or irate customer? So it depends on the kind of position you are recruiting for. But in most positions, you are always dealing with the customer, and you need to know who your customer is because the customer has an high impact on the acceptability of the kind of job that you do. So the customer can always report to a higher authority when they are not being satisfied. So a customer is always important, and we need to know who our customer is at every point in time. Question 22. What are your salary expectations? People might have different salary expectations. It depends on most times the stage of the recruitment. that they ask this question. So it's possibly when they have decided that this is a candidate we want, that's when they go towards this requirements. So they also want to know whether you are above their range or whether you are below their range, if they are willing and able to fund your desires. Question 23. Give a time when you went above and beyond the requirements for a project. So they want to know, understand here how you handle projects and how you satisfy your customers or your clients. These are good questions to understand based on your experience and your different projects you've handled, how you're able to go about it. So they actually need real world examples to understand what you know in terms of project execution. Question 24. Who are our competitors? This question is being asked when they want to understand whether you know a bit about the company. Because if you already know some parts of the company, it makes it easier when you're doing an induction for you to catch on to the company and who they are and what they do. It's more difficult when you don't understand what the company does as a whole. So when you ask who are our competitors, it's a way of understanding whether you have a deep understanding of who they are as a company. Question 25. What was your biggest failure? This is a way to understand a person, how a person is able to be ambitious and to involve in risky activities. When one has a big failure, it means that they have been actively participating in big activities. So they want to understand this from your own point of view, to understand also how you handled it and how you learn from the experience. Question 26. What motivates you? We all need motivation in every area. But if you are working on a job where you require your boss to motivate you, then it's possible that when the boss is not around, one may not be motivated. So this question can gauge if somebody is self-motivated or if they are externally motivated. It's good for everyone to be self-motivated because you can always not wait for an external person to come to you to motivate you. Because what if they don't show up to motivate you? Question 27. What's your availability? Here they're just getting to understand how long you need to give a notice to your current company or how you may actually need to forfeit your salary if you're actually successful with that company in the recruitment process. Question 28. Who's your mentor? We all need mentors. A mentor is someone who has gone the road that we believe or we desire to follow as well in life. So it's someone who is able to give us real life example of how they lived their life to get to the accomplishments they have achieved in life. With this, we are able to follow their example. And so they ask this question to know if you are someone who thinks it's right to have an example, a roadmap to follow in life, and if you actually communicate with that person. Question 29. Tell me about a time when you disagreed with your boss. So this question is gauging how a person communicates with their boss and if they are able to handle a disagreement with their boss in a professional manner. So you are able to give an example of how it was handled and how it did not affect the relationship going forward with your employer. Question 30. Do you handle pressure? In most jobs, pressure is one area that often comes up at certain periods in time. And during pressure, the real personality of a person is revealed. So they want to understand whether during periods of pressure, you're able to keep yourself cool, calm, and collected, and you're still able to make decisions in that high pressure situation or scenario or environment. You still need to be able to keep your calm and make decisions as required. Question 31. What is the name of our CEO? Again, this is another question to gauge your understanding of who the company is. It makes it easier for you to be able to blend into the company and adapt once you are recruited. Question 32. What are your career goals? Here, they want to know if you are ambitious, if you already have set out goals and objectives which drive you. Because if one doesn't have goals, then they have a limited motivation to actually carry out certain activities. So one needs to have drive, personal drive on their own for their career. Question 33. What gets you up in the morning? This is another form of motivation and drive question. They want to know what burns in your heart that actually makes you to be motivated every morning. Question 34. What will your direct report say about you? This is a question that wants to gauge your reputation amongst your colleagues and co-workers and upline. Okay, this is used to gauge the kind of things that your subordinates will be saying about you. So it's most likely for managers and people who are bosses in the place of work who manage a team. They want to understand how people view you as a manager or as a leader. Question 35. What were your boss's strengths and weaknesses? This is used to understand whether you're able to, will I say, manage your boss in the sense that you understand the shortcomings of your boss and the strengths of your boss so that you can adapt to his personality for you to have a well-rounded relationship with your boss. So it's for you to understand whether you were able to study your boss to know how to work effectively with them. Question 36. Are you a leader or a follower? Question 37. What was the last book you read? Aside technical books that relate to our profession, it's good that everyone should every now and then get a novel, get a book on particular subjects that they want to become vast on or broad areas to improve their comprehension and reading. So this is a way to understand whether aside technical books, if you engage in study of other books, or they want to know in general if you engage in general study outside work. Question 38. What are your hobbies? A lot of people know their hobbies, but this is just to gauge the kind of things that we do when we are not actually working. And if someone doesn't actually have hobbies, it's good for them to actually take up one because sometimes in company provisions for recreational activities. So in those cases, you can actually express yourself and bond with your team members during those periods. Question 39. What makes you uncomfortable? Question 39. What makes you uncomfortable? This is a question to gauge your kind of person and to know what gives you distaste when you are reacting or interacting with people. It helps them to know that you actually understand yourself and you're able to respond or to express it when you don't feel comfortable in a particular situation. What are some of your leadership experiences? So they want to have practical examples of how you have been able to lead teams over the years in the various job roles you have been functioning in. So this is a way to gauge your leadership experience. Question 41. How would you fire someone? So it depends on the position that a person has in the company or corporation. You may be required to fire someone from time to time. You want to know if you have passed the guilty feeling when letting someone go in a company. They want to understand that you're able to actually carry out this function as a leader. Question 42. What do you like the most and least about working in this industry? Here they want to gauge your desire and motivation working in this industry. That way they'll know if you are someone who is willing to stay for the long term. And if they are actually doing things that you like, or if there are things you dislike, but you're actually still willing to work in it, it also helps them to understand that aspect of your personality. Question 43. Would you work 40 plus hours a week? This is another way of finding out if you are willing to work overtime or maybe weekends, or primarily overtime. Because sometimes work responsibilities don't finish at 5 p.m. They might extend beyond 5 p.m. So they want to understand your kind of personality when it has to do with working overtime. Question 44. What questions do you have for me? Us. In most recruitments, it's a two-way situation. The company wants to know if you are a suitable candidate, and the candidate needs to know if the company is suitable for them. So the candidate also needs to have some questions prepared to ask the recruiters. So this is a good way and an opportunity to actually ask the questions to the company. And it's also good if you have questions for the company because it shows that you have some things to clarify either from what they do or from the position. Question 45. Describe your work ethic. This question is a little more technical and philosophical, but they want to understand the kind of drive and how you look at work as a philosophy. So they want to understand your philosophy of working. Question 46. Can you describe your ideal boss or supervisor? First of all, in most companies, you have come to realize that there might not be any boss, although from time to time people are lucky enough to have good bosses. But they might not be an ideal boss because on a bad day, a good boss can seem like a bad boss. But we might have something in mind that this is what an ideal boss should look like. So you should be able to express it to the recruiters. But you should also have that caveat for them to know that you understand the situation that not everybody will be ideal in a work situation. Question 47. How would your references describe you? So this is a way to understand whether you have close relationship with the people who are referencing you either on your CV or when it's a physical conversations. So how do they see you? People who have chosen to reference you from time to time, how do they see you as a person? Question 48. What's your management style? So for a managerial position, they will need to understand how you manage employees or manage the kind of work that you do. So there is also a way to understand whether you are technically abreast of what is required of the position. Question 49. What have you learned from mistakes on your past jobs? We all make mistakes, but when we don't learn is where there's problem because we are destined to repeat them. But asking this question is a way to understand that you actually learn from mistakes you make, and for them to also know that you're humble enough to admit that you make mistakes as a human. Question 50. What is more important to you, money or success? This could be a tricky question sometimes because one is interested in money primarily, or it might be that you are interested in succeeding in every activity more than looking at money because some jobs that you do, the reward is long term, but there are some jobs that you do, the reward is short term. So if you are someone who is looking at success, then you can take a job which has long term reward because you are primarily interested in achieving and accomplishing tasks over the long term. Question 51. What is your personal mission statement? As a person, everybody has a mission, how they see themselves and what they want to achieve at every point in time. So this gauges your own mission as a person and how you impute this in your kind of work that you do. Question 52. Are you willing to work overtime or other hours? So you've asked this question before, so you have similar responses as your personality determines. Question 53. How do you propose to compensate for your lack of experience? So this question could be for those who are young or early career personnel who are being recruited, and it's a given when they say that you lack experience, and how are you going to compensate for it? Sometimes maybe recruiters just want to hear of how you've been hardworking in the past and are willing to replicate that on this new job. But they want to know what stands you out, not having experience, and how you are willing to gain that experience. Question 54. Explain a time when you did not get along with your coworker. So this talks about conflict and how you handle conflict. There are different ways to handle conflict. You could avoid, get somebody else to mediate. You could confront it directly and all. So they want to understand the way you actually handle different kinds of conflict with co-workers. Question 55. What do you think of your previous boss? This one's With this question, they want to understand how you see your previous boss, and they are also hoping if they want you to be successful for you not to actually say negative things, for you not to actually say negative things about your former employer. Because if you done that, then definitely you do it where you are going to. So it could be a way to understand the kind of way you see your boss. Because what you say about them, if you have negative impressions, it will come out at some point when you are speaking about your former employer. So it's good to have a positive attitude about our bosses. Question 56. How do you inspire others to be better? So being able to inspire other people is a gift. So if you are someone who is able to do that and you have discovered yourself being able to do that over the years, then it's something you should be able to express and explain in detail. Because inspiration is required, especially when you are working with junior staff or subordinates. You need to be able to inspire your team or your workers in order for them to give you the best on the job. Question 57. Are you a people person? There are some jobs that requires limited interfacing or relationship with other people, but there are some jobs that requires a high percentage of it interacting with people or stakeholders in general. So if you are more of a people person, you excel you to interact more with people. Or if you are somebody who is not really a people person, then it makes it easier for you to work on your own, or if you are doing certain kinds of job that does not require high levels of interaction with other people. So the nature of job will determine how you answer this question. Question 58. What types of books or magazines do you typically read? So again here they want to know how broad your mindset is in terms of what you study and what the things that you have interest in. They want to know your other interests aside your profession. Question 59. Give me a few examples of how you are results oriented. So here they want to know if you're a goal getter and how you can actually show that you're someone who wants to achieve results. Because in every endeavor in life, every field, every sphere of life, what is required is results. You need to be achieving something at every point in time. Otherwise, it means that you're not progressing. So you need to show that you're actually achieving something. And with this question, you're able to show how in your attitude you are a result-oriented person. Question 60. Describe a time when you have been overwhelmed with work. So this question can be used to gauge whether you can admit that sometimes workload can be more than your ability. Also, it can be used to gauge from the kind of expressions to gauge whether the kind of workload that makes you overwhelmed is something that someone else will do and won't feel overwhelmed. Probably they do it with ease. So it's another way to gauge whether somebody needs training in certain areas to reduce this overwhelming feeling in order to make them in that particular work area. Question 61. Do you work better on a team with just one person or alone? So this question depends on the kind of position you're recruiting for or you're applying for. You need to understand whether you'll be required to work in a team. If you are required to work in a team, then you need to express how you worked in teams in the past and how you enjoy working in a team. There are some jobs also that require you to work alone, bring up ideas by yourself and present it to upline managers. So in that case, you'll be working alone. They want to know if you have strengths, either working alone, working with another person, or working with a team. Question 62. What skills do you bring to the table? So in every company, there are people with different skill sets and competencies. But sometimes there are shortages of certain skills in an organization. So just presenting the skills that you have, they might be able to realize some certain gaps of the employees you currently have, and you may become somebody who with the requisite skills for the position in the company, or some of the skills you possess can actually help the company to move forward. So it has to do with expressing the skills that you feel are of value and are not a general kind of skill in the market. Question 63. What differentiates you from the competition? So this year, most times when companies recruit, they are also interviewing many other people. And sometimes this question can be used to understand from your own perspective and also to be comfortable with you knowing that other people are being recruited for the position. You need to put in your best. They use this question to gauge how you feel you can differentiate yourself if other people are competing for the same position that you do. Because you have to face it when you start a job, there's usually competition, either aggressive competition or subtle competition amongst employees. So you need to understand this because there's always competition in every sphere of life. Question 64. How would you impact the company? First of all, you should be able to understand from the job description the weaknesses or the areas that the company wants to plug. So those are their need areas. So from the job description, you already have an idea of how you can actually impact on the company based on your experience, your skills, and exposure in order to help the company to grow. What are three positive things your boss will say about you? Again, this question is a way to understand whether you had a close relationship with your boss or whether you took the relationship or interaction with your boss seriously. This also shows that you remember things they said, meaning that you take to heart things that your boss says and understand it in order to put them into use or to improve upon. So it's also a way to show that your boss, these are some qualities that your boss identified, and possibly if you are recruited in that company, your new boss is going to understand these are areas they should be looking out for to exploit your strengths. Question 66. How do you handle stressful situations? So in different companies, while we work, there is also every now and then going to be stressful situations. I want to know if you'll be able to have a calm in order to handle the situation. Question 67. What features of your previous jobs have you disliked? Question 68. How would you motivate your team members to produce the best possible results? Question 69. How long will it take for you to make a significant contribution? Question 70. What features of your previous jobs have you disliked? Question 70. What features of previous jobs have you disliked? Question 71. How would you motivate your team members to produce the best possible results? So these questions are clear and you're able to find out online different ways. So if you have comments about this video, you can always put it in the comment section. Let me understand what you know about responses for these questions or the other questions you feel that may be relevant to add to the common and uncommon interview questions. In a subsequent video, we shall discuss these questions in more details and also provide possible answers. Thank you.